A Formula One driver doesn't want to drive a championship-winning car? You heard that right. Daniel Ricciardo may be the only driver who doesn't want to drive for the top teams, and that fact alone makes us question his next move in Formula One. At this point, he's having a burnout, and his poor performance isn't inspiring confidence in many people, including world champions. So let's dive in to see what exactly goes on inside Ricciardo's head. Firstly, Ricciardo is glad a top team didn't offer him a seat in Formula One. Not like they would have, by the way. Ricciardo's F1 career is at risk of fizzling out after his short-lived, unlucky adventures with Renault and McLaren. He wanted to look for whatever is better for him, but unfortunately, all he produced in those 4 years were some pretty underwhelming results. The Aussie went through multiple losses, along with a few race DNFs, and if someone was in his seat, they'd be just as demotivated as he is right now. He confessed about being glad that no top team has offered him a full-fledged driving role for 2023 because, simply put, he's tired of disappointment. You and me both, pal. Constant demotivation can often lead to burnout. That's exactly what the 33-year-old is going through right now. He knows that his heart is not 100% devoted to driving in the 2023 season, so he's pretty relieved of not having to race for a top team because he feared that he may disappoint the winning teams and be the cause of their downfall. Though there was a possibility of the Aussie driving for the American team Haas, but Ricciardo didn't entertain the idea of driving for other teams lower on the grid, and he'd much rather take a year off. Following up, Ricciardo has been moving between teams a lot faster than on the racetrack. Now that does sound salty, but it's not wrong. From Red Bull to Renault to McLaren to Red Bull again, he literally dumped each one after the other within 4 years. So almost every year, a fresher to Formula One asks, what team would Ricciardo join this year? Same thoughts, my guy. Same thoughts. For that answer, it's been made pretty clear that he's going to sit as a reserve driver for Red Bull Racing Team and that he's finally back home. Why'd he leave though? It was because of his troublesome relationship with his teammate Max Verstappen, who he thought was definitely the favorite son of Christian Horner. Not just on the racetrack, but there'd been rifts in the offices as well. Simply put, Verstappen was getting paid more money and attention, and the much more experienced Australian driver didn't like how he was being erased from the Red Bull family photo. Some fans say it was revenge, and some say it was completely stupid to leave the higher-end team for Renault. But although he gave actual Honey Badger vibes, in that yellow car, he wasn't feeling as happy as a Honey Badger. But then, right when things started to look better, with him winning Renault's first podium in a year, and guess what? He left. Maybe he thought the third time's the charm, so he shifted to McLaren, which he thought would be better for him, but season 22 says otherwise. It's like he tries to find something better for himself, but he actually just gets worse. Pretty ironic, isn't it? Now, the next step for Ricciardo is stepping out of the track to reignite his love for racing. He's not leaving because he's lost it, he's leaving because he fears that he may lose it if he doesn't gather himself soon. Ricciardo has been open about being tired out after his struggles at McLaren, and he hopes that a year away from the exhaustive weekly grind of F1 will benefit his mental health in more ways than one. After all, the life of a Formula One driver is not an easy one. It may look picture perfect from the outside, but sometimes fame and fortune can make you feel trapped inside that frame. The racer has to travel to a different country each weekend, and there's this rule of compulsory media presence and commitments that they need to fulfill. Not just that, but the drivers need to look after their own fitness regimen as well and maintain a certain weight. But if over that limit, then they'll be the reason for being slow on the racetrack. All of these things do bring their privileges, but it's an extremely demanding sport that Ricciardo needs a break from. Not a full retirement though. Ricciardo still wants to stay in the loop, and not just any loop, but the championship-winning team's loop. He feels like he'll be more recognized, which he was through memes, and less forgotten. It's why, for Ricciardo, a third driver arrangement without the extensive workload is ideal. Not to forget, a two-time F1 world champion said Ricciardo is finished. Ouch, that's got to sting. Imagine fighting the battle for the world championship and the champion themselves don't have faith in you anymore. The silly season in every Formula One season is just that. Incredibly silly. There are choices that no one may accurately guess, and the 2022 season was full of surprises. Sebastian Vettel retired, Mick Schumacher hasn't signed a deal, the Ferrari team principal left, and there's just so much more that we can't swallow yet. There was also a rumor which said that Danny Rick wanted out of Formula One for the time being, and double F1 world champion Mika Hakkinen seconds that. Hakkinen believes it's difficult for Ricciardo to make a comeback because the Australian is being pushed out of the sport, whereas people like world champions retire and then choose to have a sabbatical year. It's unfortunate, but it's true. The Formula One business is brutal. It involves huge bucks, and if a racer can't bring in even bigger checks, then they're kicked out. Simple as that. However, this is something that Ricciardo fails to recognize when he dreams to drive for higher-end teams, while not convinced that his poor form is gone. So basically, Ricciardo imagining to be in a championship car with his did-not-finish performance is a joke on its own. At least that's what Hakkinen believes. To add on to that, there are better Formula 2 drivers than Ricciardo at this point. We all know that usually Formula 1 drivers are scouted from Formula 2 races, and as time passes, there's a young generation who may even be quicker than Danny now. Daniel's in a challenging situation. Everyone in the paddock loves him, with a charismatic personality and a great sense of humor, but unfortunately, teams like McLaren want more than that. They don't just want a winner on television, but a winner on the racetrack as well. The two-time champion, Hakkinen, said that Ricciardo's 8 F1 wins won't weigh much when team bosses begin to consider their driver lineup for the incoming years. For the 2023 season, McLaren made their decision and stamped the contract with Oscar Piastri, who won Formula 3 in 2020 and was the champion of Formula 2 in 2021, which just proves that an F2 racer was much more preferred than Formula 1's very own Ricciardo. And as scary as it would be for Ricciardo to accept, what's the guarantee that there wouldn't be even more rookies for the 2024 season when the Aussie will be searching for a seat? If there were 4 new recruits from Formula 2 in 2023, there may just be more next year. Now let's look at some other F1 drivers that are taking a sabbatical. If you don't know what a sabbatical year is, then don't worry, it's basically a paid vacation, like the one Ricciardo would be on with Red Bull. There are 4 drivers from the 2022 season who will be away from the grid for the next season, but only Mick Schumacher will accompany Ricciardo as his sabbatical buddy. Though Ricciardo's was intentional, we can't say the same for the German. He's set for an enforced sabbatical, which means he couldn't sign a contract with any other F1 team. However, unlike Hakkinen's distrust in Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon is sure that Mick will return to the Formula 1 grid at some point and that his break can do him justice as he sits as a reserve driver for Mercedes. Ocon speaks of experience when he talks about Schumacher's departure because the Frenchman himself spent a year on the F1 sideline in 2019 until he returned the following year to race for Renault, which is now known as Alpine. So Schumacher's young and all, so he has people around him who are confident with his comeback. But what about Ricciardo? Who's supporting him? Finally, is Ricciardo's F1 career really finished? His best bet to return to F1 in a top team he's familiar with would be if the relationship between Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez deteriorates and just becomes dysfunctional. To return as a second driver in Red Bull racing, he would need to pray for their inner contentions to be volatile enough for Red Bull to force the Mexican to leave the team. But that's not gonna happen anytime soon. Given Verstappen's mega contract with Red Bull and Perez acting to be the perfect wingman who takes all the punches, there might not be space for a full-time driver in the Milton Keynes team. Not just that, but Ricciardo might not fulfill his dream of retiring to F1 with a front-running team like Mercedes, because the only way that wish could come true is if Hamilton retired at the end of 23, and that's not going to happen as well. Lewis is not going to pack his bag and leave the Formula 1 industry out of nowhere when he's not even close to slowing down or losing form. Sorry, Danny, but the only way you are going to Mercedes was in 2017 after Rosberg retired, and that ship sailed a long time ago. If anything, the Aussie might just need to continue 2024 in the back marker teams. And if we look at the brighter side, if Ricciardo performs extraordinarily from the back of the grid, then there would be no better way to bring justice to his year off from racing. And that's a wrap to this video, guys. Do you think this sabbatical will be worth it for Ricciardo? Let us know your answers in the comment section down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Until next time, see you soon.